Good morning, my friends. Today we are doing grammar lesson 9.5 on troublesome conjunctions. So this is a fairly simple lesson. We just have two sets of words that are sometimes confused for each other. So we want to make sure that we are using them correctly in sentences and we understand when to use each one. So let's get started. The first set that we're looking at is unless or without. Now, unless is a subordinate conjunction and it's used to introduce dependent adverb clauses. Okay, so an example of that: no family is prepared for disaster unless it has an emergency kit. So you can see that it has an emergency kit. That is clearly a clause. It's got a subject, it's got a predicate. Okay, without is actually a preposition and it's used to introduce a prepositional phrase. For example, no family should be without an emergency kit. Without an emergency kit is a prepositional phrase. So we need to make sure that we use these two words correctly. Most of the time when we pick one, we're going to automatically pick the correct one because the other one's not going to sound quite right. But I want you to understand why it's not right. Okay? So make sure you're looking at what follows each one of these to see if it is a clause or part of a prepositional phrase. Now, the next set is like, as if, or as. Like and as if often seem to be interchangeable, but just like with our other set, one is used as a preposition and one is used as a subordinate conjunction, so we need to use them correctly. Now, like is a preposition and it is used to introduce a prepositional phrase. For example, Julio looks like his brother. So like is introducing the prepositional phrase like his brother. Now, as if is a subordinate conjunction and it is used to introduce a clause. For example, Sam looks as if he is worried. Now, a lot of times people will put like in a sentence like this. Sam looks like he is worried. It makes sense. It sounds correct, but he is worried is a clause. So it should not have like, it should have as if. So make sure in your own writing that you use these two correctly. If you're using a like in a sentence, make sure what follows it is the rest of a prepositional phrase. So it's got a modifier and an object of a preposition. If you've got a clause following like, you need to switch it to as if. Now, the other one in this category is as. Now, as can function either as a conjunction or a preposition. So that might be a little bit confusing, but either way, as is going to be the correct choice, regardless of what follows it. So I crawled under the table as the earth shook. In this case, it's acting as a conjunction because the earth shook is a clause. The second example, my brother visited New York as a member of the school band. In this case, it's acting as a preposition for the prepositional phrase as a member of the school band. So either one of those are correct and it can be used as either. But sometimes we may choose to use as instead of like or as if. So make sure that whichever one you pick, you're using it correctly. Now, for your practice today, what we're doing here is exactly what you're going to be doing in your independent practice. They're going to give you a choice of words and you have to decide which one is correct. So let's do that together. The first sentence, don't leave without or unless I accompany you. Which one is correct here? Hopefully you picked unless. Now, how do I know for sure that it's unless? Well, first of all, it sounds correct. But how I really know is I accompany you is a clause. So because unless is a subordinate conjunction, you have to use that one because you're introducing a clause. The second one, other towns did not go without or unless damage. Which one is correct there? Hopefully you picked without. Now, besides the fact that without sounds correct, look at what follows. Damage. Without damage. That can only be a prepositional phrase. It can't be a clause because there is no subject and predicate there. So without damage is your prepositional phrase there. So it has to be without. Now we're moving on to as if, or like. We must always behave as if, or like the next earthquake is near. Which one sounds correct there? Now this one might be a little bit more confusing because both as if and like sound correct, So let's look at the rest of the sentence and figure out if it's a prepositional phrase or if it's a clause. So, following this, we have the next earthquake is near. Well, in this case, the next earthquake, that's the subject, is. So, sorry about that. My computer froze for a moment. So, as if is correct because the next earthquake is near is a clause. Now, let's look at the next one. It is important we keep the hallway of homes clear as if, or like. This is one of the safest places to be during an earthquake. So, what should it be there? Hopefully, you picked as. Now, as as this is one of the safest places to be during an earthquake, in this case, as is being a subordinate conjunction introducing that clause of this is one of the safest places to be during an earthquake. Now, our final example. People debate how much preparation for disasters as if, or like earthquakes is useful or even possible. Which one makes the most sense there? Hopefully you picked like. Like is the only one that sounds correct, but it's also being a prepositional phrase, like earthquakes. Now, some of you may be confused there because you've got is useful or even possible. So it seems like it might be a part of a clause, and it's actually a prepositional phrase in the middle of a clause. If you go back in that sentence, people debate, well, clause, and you've got like earthquakes smack in the middle of that clause. So that can be a little bit confusing there. So this is all you're going to have to do today. They're going to give you a choice of two of these either subordinate conjunctions or prepositions, and you have to determine based on their use in the sentence which one is correct. I hope that helps. I hope you have a great understanding of this, and if you need any help today, please don't hesitate to ask. Have a great day.